Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, a Northeastern road trip and another disappointing result. Our takeaways from the Bulls and Raptors games, the big lineup change, and more next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to close out your weekend, kick off your Monday, whichever it is, wherever you're finding us, whenever you're finding us. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, so click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. New FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. We'll get more from FanDuel later on in the show, but first, joining me as always from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on a Sunday evening, Ben Garcia?
I mean, I feel good. Let's just dive right into it, man. Let's just dive into these lineup changes and everything we learned, Brendon.
All right, we're going to recap both games kind of together rather than going back in time to do the Bulls game when we've already played, there's been a game played since. So let's start with just our takeaways from this back-to-back together, and then we will get into Beal returning to the starting lineup, Ben. But mine is that, obviously, 121-117 win over Chicago on Saturday, 127-109 loss to the Raptors on Sunday. But very similar games, I would say. And the overarching theme that I felt watching is that nothing comes easy for this Suns team. And that might sound obvious based on the whole season, but I actually mean it in a little bit of a different way, because in these games, the Suns actually didn't turn the ball over too much. They had 11, I believe, against the Bulls and 11 against the Raptors. They didn't allow too many offensive rebounds. I mean, 14 by the end of it against Toronto, but a lot of that came late. They kept that in check. They had decent offensive flow, which we'll get to with the Beal thing. Maybe not good enough. But this, Ben, to me, felt like a game. This felt sort of the closest to last year's Suns that I feel like we've seen, where the things that are biting them in the butt right now, well, one, the big difference from last year's Suns is the center position is worse. That's where you kind of start. But then a lot of the same errors we kept seeing last year are now coming back, where they can't take enough threes. They're losing that battle on a nightly basis. They make mental mistakes on the defensive end where you get this flurry of threes at the end against Toronto. That's why nothing comes easy. They're not beating themselves right now. They're losing to teams they shouldn't, and that's frustrating, but it's because they're not giving themselves the cushion, the high floor that the best teams in the NBA have, and that's why you're seeing these runs, and then can they clean it up at the end and whatever. They are not making it easy on themselves, and it feels like it's deja vu from not this season, but last year, a lot of the same things we were saying.
So I usually mute my mic whenever you're talking because I don't like to talk over you. It makes things a little bit tougher, especially like social media things and that too. But under my breath, I was like, damn it. That was the exact same thing. So I'll work out and watch the Suns games in our apartment's gym. And I'm watching it and it hit me. I was like, this is just the Suns team from last year. This is the pace. One of the things that I was like, man, they kind of play a little fast now that Tyus Jones is out of the lineup. Now it's 2 games, things change, and the Raptors aren't very good, except obviously it looks like they're better than the Suns. But I thought the same thing. I was like, this is exactly what they were last year. Outside of those last 10 games, they were pretty good defensively, but now they're just a bad defensive team. And this is what I thought the Suns were going to look like at the beginning of the year. Now, it's obviously the worst version of that, but putting Bradley Beal back in the lineup, and then you see yesterday, those 3 guys have 81 points together. And then today they had 76 points together, where Kevin Durant wasn't very efficient from today's game. Not going at Durant, it's just the truth. And so those three guys were awesome. The problem is defensively, they're not very good. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They didn't turn the ball over that many times, but you had said a lot of those offensive rebounds came late in the game. Well, that's when the Raptors pulled away. We're grabbing those offensive boards. So both these games, you had said it too, man. I agree 100%. Everything looked exactly the same outside of the ending, which was the Raptors pulled away, where yesterday the Suns kind of pulled away. If the Suns are running it back in the same style as they did last year, we know how that ended. But one thing that can't happen, man, 7 3-pointers to the Raptors 20. You're losing every single game that happens. Every single game.
Yeah. And it's the same thing we kept saying last year, right? Where we would look and almost to a T, you could go onto the box score and almost the exact deficit of the game ended up being the deficit of the threes, where today it's the Raptors make 13 more threes. They won by about 21 points. I guess, wait, no, that's not 21. That would be 7. So, okay, 39, not quite. That is, you can't stay competitive in the modern NBA if you do that. And it sounds like now I'm getting tired of myself saying the same spiel that we all were saying last year after I was just tired of giving the same spiel about every game this year. But, I mean, it just kind of underlines the same thing, that this roster has fundamental flaws. And, you know, my personal view is a coach hasn't been the difference so far and probably isn't going to be the difference if they go a different direction again. But what did you take away from these games?
Yeah, the two things that I took away from these games were very plainly this. And sometimes I see this on social media, and I don't take this too much than just Suns fans being upset, but oftentimes it's, oh, of course, the Raptors are going off against the Suns, or, oh, of course, the Nets are going off. Cam Thomas was awesome, or whoever it is. Yeah. At some point, that's a you issue. That's not like a one-off. Like if the Golden State Warriors with Jimmy and Steph and Draymond, they lose to the Pelicans on a random Friday night because Jose Alvarado had 30 points. Like, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you guys just get hot. With the Suns defensively, the reason why teams are playing so well, or the Raptors for the 6th time all year had more than 15 3-point makes, is because every single 3-point shot it felt like was wide open. Emmanuel quickly later on in that game is just hitting open 3-pointers. No, defensively, this team, it doesn't matter what you do with the lineup. If you don't put in the effort defensively, and it almost just felt like even Mason Plumlee at one point was just letting the guys stand on the perimeter. It's almost like they're like, this team, like they knew the scouting report. This team has only had 5 other games this year outside of this one where they had 15 plus 3-pointers. Shoot them. Like after a while, you got to go up and check someone. And that's my biggest issue. It doesn't matter what you do with the lineup. It doesn't matter if you throw out whoever it is or put someone else in. If you don't have the effort to play well defensively, or not even play well, but this wasn't even rotations. Like normally I'm like, they're late to rotations. They weren't even rotating. They were just letting guys shoot. And like, you can't have that. Defensively, I don't care who you have. NBA guys are going to make those 3-pointers in open gyms. And tonight was an open gym. So that's what I got from it, man. Just a bleat poor effort defensively against the Raptors. Can't do that.
The Suns 3-point defense for a couple seasons now, like you can chalk up some games to bad luck, like shots are going to go in, and then, you know, we never are going to point out the nights where somehow a team goes 8 of 40. We don't spend as much energy on those, and they happen. And like, yeah, that is ultimately going to be true. Like that's how basketball works. But the Suns have a bad 3-point defense. They are bad at the things that you need to do to consistently contest threes, whether that is switching, whether that is, you know, getting your big man's hand up on a pull-up 3, whether that is just the rotations and being in the right spot, or just closing out and giving effort and being able to make multiple efforts within a defensive possession. All those things sound basic. They are, but the Suns have been bad at them for 2 years, and that's why teams tend to pile it on from back there against them. Also, just in general, this was the 21st and 24th ranked offense in the NBA that the Suns faced this weekend. So 2 bottom 10 offenses both put up 120 plus against them. And you're just not going to win games like that. So I agree with you. I don't think that the lineups necessarily will change that. This weekend was sort of proof. We got the lineup that we had been kind of crossing our fingers they would go back to with Tyus Jones on the bench now and Beal back with the starters. So we'll break down that move next. First, today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save thanks to Dash Pass. For the rest of the season, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50-plus in a game during the 2024-25 NBA regular season, from here on out, Dash Pass members get 50% off their order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Let's see. Maybe you're planning a watch party for the playoffs. Maybe you're saying, honestly, I'm going to enjoy hoops more when the Suns are out of it. Let me start to make these plans. DoorDash and the Dash Pass can help you do that. Order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for the high-scoring action of the playoffs, or maybe some late-night cravings. Suns have some, 8:30 tips coming up. You want to stay up and catch the game. You just need that midnight snack. Use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50-plus in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off and order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after that 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter if you have not already. I have a feeling there's going to be more and more news and rumors as the season comes to a close. Unfortunately for all of us, but you're going to want to keep up with it. So go to LockedOnDaily.com, type your email address, and get free news and analysis about the Suns, the NBA, and fantasy basketball straight to your inbox. And best of all, it supports us big time. Okay, so on Friday, John Gambadoro of Arizona Sports here locally, Ben, reported that the Suns were finally going to pull the trigger, move Tyus Jones to the bench. They did that. Beal gets back into the starting lineup and promptly plays 79 minutes across 2 games, got a heaping dose of Bradley Beal, and Tyus Jones went 0 for 6 from the field in his 35 minutes of his own, including, let's see, Saturday, pretty good in terms of the assist to turnover, but today, on Sunday, 3 assists, 3 turnovers in 15 minutes against Toronto. What got us here? We could talk about the play and the fit and whether it is going to change anything, but what do you think made them finally make this switch almost 60 games into the season? And I would say for most Suns fans, probably 30, 35 games after we realized this change was probably needed?
30, 35 seems a little harsh. I'd probably go 20 plus games at that point but I mean, I think they were looking and seeing that every single game was losing the same way. And when teams needed to get a bucket, they were hunting Tyus Jones. The Spurs were hunting him, or they were hunting him, or they're Grayson Allen. And the Suns realized they had to make a change. I wouldn't be surprised if KD or Booker said something like, "Hey guys, this ain't working. Try to switch something up." But honestly, at the end of the day, I think that what really makes me believe why they made this change is I don't even think Budenholzer knows why he made this change, because his rotations that are seemingly random every single night, including today, Ryan Dunn, Bol Bol played a combined 14 minutes tonight, and it was 7 apiece. So I just think he's just continuously experimenting. I think there's a chance Tyus Jones comes back to the starting lineup at some point, not because I want it to happen, because I don't think this team has any direction. So if I were to lean towards anything, it would be, I think Budenholzer was just looking for a switch. I don't think he looked at anything in particular to say, make it happen, because nothing has sporadically changed over the last 15 plus, 20 plus games where we've all said that this guy needs to be moved out of the starting lineup. So I think he's just trying stuff out, man. What do you think it was that changed it? I mean,
yeah.
And how did Gambo get wind of it? Such a specific
thing. That's the thing, right? It was like specifically after Thursday's game, and that's what makes it so odd to me is that he didn't close the game on Thursday. He played the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly how many minutes he played, okay, here we go. I can pull up the box score. 23. Similar to, frankly, what he played even in these two. But, why would this not be a change that you would make coming out of the break? That's why I asked it to you, because it's like we just had a week off of basketball where all these teams put their heads down and try to make adjustments of what they're going to try to do the stretch run of the season, and this was an obvious one. They wait one game. It goes predictably poorly because he's not a good defender, and he hasn't been making shots lately. I think his confidence is kind of broken lately. And then they finally say, okay, now we'll make the move. That's what's so head-scratching about it.
Which I think leads into my point of I don't really think there was a rhyme or reason why they did it. I think Bud is just continuously experimenting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. This is so stupid, but I wouldn't be surprised if on Tuesday when they play the Grizzlies, they put Tyus Jones back in for matchup reasons or gut feeling.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
I mean, I think you're kind of
makes sense.
Being tongue-in-cheek, right? Because Beal has played great, and like I think we should go.
We're gonna get into that. Beal has been awesome, and I have kind of made that point before, where it's 81, 76 points between the three guys. Clearly, Beal, yes, is the better option, but yeah, I'm sure that there was a more specific reason than no rhyme or reason. But I am kind of being tongue-in-cheek of like, nothing makes sense. Why are you waiting the day after a game in the All-Star break? Why is Ryan Dunn not getting minutes? Why the rotation's weird? Like, I shouldn't have ammunition for me to say, I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah.
And clearly it's more so because
even today, Ryan Dunn, you mentioned they split their, 14 minutes, which was a little odd, but Dunn was also the first sub of the game and still only managed to get 7 minutes. So that's odd. But the thing about Tyus is he basically has given them more to work with in terms of seeing him on the court than just about anybody, because he's stayed relatively healthy. So if there was anyone, the obvious thing you would say of why they waited so long is because a lot of the other players have been so in and out of the lineup that it's the same argument that you and I finally came to of why Beal going to the bench made some sense, just so that you're not adjusting on the fly so often. And I think that's probably part of what made them keep Tyus in there, is just everything else is chaos health-wise. Let's keep the constant in place. I think that's kind of also why it took so long with Nurk, frankly. But the data that they've been able to look at of Tyus being on the court has just been so bad that this was blatantly obvious. The team is 4 points. They're -4 per 100 possessions when he's on the court this year. And if you add like on versus off, they're actually 2 points better when he's off, meaning it's like a 6-point swing overall. And almost all of that comes on the defensive end, where the Suns are giving up 118.3 points per 100 possessions when Tyus Jones has played this year, which is a point worse than their already 27th ranked defense. So they're horrible on defense. They're even worse when Tyus is out there, and you can watch one game and tell that that's true. So it makes not a lot of sense to me. But if we can switch over to the Beal side of it, because he's been awesome. He had 25 on 10 of 19 shooting Saturday, and then he had 30 on 12 of 15 shooting on Sunday, doing what they need him to do. As I think at his best moments, he started a little slow, I want to say, in the first half of Saturday's game in terms of how he was being used. And then he has basically just kind of become that outlet as a scorer that they really need him to be. And that's been great. Tell me what you think about that. But also, since this has clicked well and the team is finally kind of moving on from the point guard experiment, should Tyus even be in the rotation at all at this point?
I mean, I think you have to put Tyus in the rotation, because I think when things are going well, he does have the ability, at least offensively, to run an offense. And I don't know, like, who's your other better option? Like, I don't want to see Tyus move out of lineup. Okay.
That's what most fans would say, I think, now.
Okay, fine. I mean, for me, it's like, you do need someone. You can't play Beal 150 minutes a night, and you can't, like, here's the issue. All three of those guys, KD, Book, and Beal, are turning the ball over consistently. It's not like those guys are better point guards. So sure, if you want Tyus to be moved out of the lineup, then you're going to have to live with probably more reckless ball play. And I don't mind him going out there with the second unit and running some things. And also, his three-point efficiency hasn't been great over the past couple of games, but he's been pretty good from three-point land this year. Like, I won't go that far. I saw that earlier today too. But I would rather Tyus continue to stay in the rotation. I just don't want to see him 33 minutes a night, because he continues to get exploited defensively, I think, worse than anyone else on the floor. So no, I don't want him out. But
so
I think 15
15
minutes tonight was fine.
Minutes per game over the course of the season, 32, 33, 30, 26, 27. So it's been dipping, and obviously with this move, it'll dip even more. In February, he is 30% from deep on 53 attempts, so the bottom is just fallen out for him.
Yeah.
I think other guys have gotten sent to the DNP doghouse for less. So, to your point, it is clearly try something mode right now, game to game even, and you go 0 of 6 from the field after you get benched. To me, that's enough to say, okay, you're getting cut even more down to fringe of the rotation, and someone else is going to get a shot in your place. Like,
well, that's where Monte Morris comes in.
So overdone.
I mean, I want a point guard out there just because I was one of the people.
Last year, the rotation didn't have a traditional guy backing them up. It was basically if they really needed some kind of guy. I mean, Nurk, his presence obviously made this a little easier, but Grayson would kind of handle the ball and everything. I think that the way they've looked on offense has looked a little closer to what I think they should be lately. And even when Tyus is out there, he's still, no matter what lineup he's in, not being used like a point guard. So
he has been used all year.
I just kind of come back to, well, then in that case, put a wing out there. If you're going to use it like a wing, then just put a wing out there and give me Dunn. Or I mean, sure, Monte wouldn't be the worst, but Dunn's better. So
no, so I think what I'm pointing to is if the Suns ever use Tyus Jones or Monte Morris effectively, then yes, I want them out there. If they're not going to use him at all, which is what the data has showed us, then sure, roll out Bol and Ryan Dunn because at least you're bigger and Bol defensively has actually been pretty well swatting the ball away recently. And then Ryan Dunn, there's no reason why he shouldn't. And this is, again, it points to why does it not make sense? Ryan Dunn was the first guy that came off the bench in the first quarter and then never saw the light of day again. Like, we can't have this anymore.
Point last season, to Vogel's credit, like, he just stuck with the rotation.
Yeah, he was solidified.
I know they were better. They were better. So, like, you got to, be honest. But at the same time, it was like we're playing through Bulls' ups and downs. Everyone hates Eubanks. He's going to make 5 obvious mistakes every game, but that's just going to be what we do and on down the line. And, like, obviously there was critics of that approach too, but there's something to be said for consistency too. I know when you're this bad, every little decision just gets kind of morphed into, well, you lost, so it's bad and everything else. But this one feels like to me, lean into what's worked now for 3 seasons around Book and Durant. Beal playing great, things looking a little closer to how they should once this lineup switch finally happened. To me, it's just like, go down doing what you're best at rather than trying to force it with this guy. And frankly, Monte even fits what I'm talking about because he plays more like a small wing. But he shoots threes and he's a better defender and he's a little more physical. He just happens to be 6'3" or whatever. That it's even closer to what I think the Suns need 1 through 9 in the rotation, whatever it is Tyus is doing, where he's like a small wing who usage-wise, who's 175 pounds. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I don't mean to dance around this, but I think ultimately what I'm getting to as well is a little bit straying off the Beal thing, but Bud has just had a really bad month. Like, I'm not blaming him for the season. Like, I am so far still in on the players than I am the coach or the front office than the coach, but Bud, and it's him just experimenting on things, but he's had a really bad month. Nothing he's done has made sense. He is playing random. So,
well, let me say this. I like that. I should have just let that be the end, but you brought up a question because what would you say if he had stuck with what wasn't working in December or January and it just continued to not work? Would you say Bud had a bad month? Or is it just because he's throwing Ty Washington out there, because he's, changing this or that game to game and it feels weird from the rotation standpoint? It's just drawing attention to the team's poor performance in a way that we can aim at him, versus if he had just stuck with the same stuff, we wouldn't notice Bud doing anything and they would still be just as bad. Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just think it's all timeliness. I think everything is amplified because it's even worse as we've gotten later on in the season. Like in December, you and I were still like, I mean, we never thought in December they were championship contenders. We're like, I mean, they're still 3 games out. Like they could do something, and like they can't. Like, and now with it being so late in the season, 57 games in, like we're just kind of waiting for April to come and figure out if we're in the playoffs, and if not, quickly get into off-season talk. But that's where we're at, man. It's frustrating.
All right, this was the stretch that I said would make or break even a play-in berth. The Suns are 3 games into it, and already things are not quite going according to plan. We'll break down what's upcoming next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for an even bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. But let's check out how to take advantage of FanDuel's wonderful $150 bonus bet offer right now. And that, of course, means going over to the world of college basketball, where on Monday night, who are our big favorites? McNeese. That's right. I don't know where McNeese is, but they're minus 2,100 favorites, and that is all I need to know. North Alabama, minus 720 at Central Arkansas. Dip in at FanDuel, where new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Throw some money at a favorite. Get that $150 pocketed at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Ben, let's close it out here pretty quick with a look at the Suns' schedule. And we can also do the standings here, I think, too, because they're both hand in hand, right?
Yeah. Let's definitely look at the standings. That's what I was just looking at.
The way that you put it as we were getting ready to log on here was that this was basically the last easy game of the season.
It was like the last like easiest game. Like this was it.
Easiest. Yeah, I guess at this point for the Suns, they've proven
there's
to
no
us
more.
None of them are easy, but
well, yeah.
This was 18-39, like cellar-dwelling Raptors team. Ingram came, he's not even playing. Like, you should have been able to take care of business here. And I would say the Spurs game was the same. And now the Suns are 1-2. Somehow beat the best team of the 3. Don't ask me how. And Memphis on Tuesday. The Pelicans back-to-back Thursday, Friday. That is an even worse team than Toronto, but their record, depending on who's available, might not actually be a perfect illustration of how good their team is. And it's a back-to-back, which we just saw the Suns struggle with in this game. And from that point on, Ben, it is, I guess they play the Raptors again, so maybe that's one you would say. And it's at home, but it is also a back-to-back. And, we don't need to read game by game, but I think you're absolutely right. And it bounces off of what I said, that this 6-game stretch was going to decide for me if I was in or out on them even making the play-in. And the arrow is pointing fully down right now.
Oh, yeah, no, it can't get much down. The Suns aren't like they're not making the play-in. They're not only not making the playoffs, like they're not making the play-in. And I've been mostly as optimistic as you can be, and I still don't think that this retool is going to be super crazy. I don't think the Suns are going to sell as well. I think that they're going to be able to figure this thing out and be competent next season and be competent for years to come. But I look at the teams ahead of them. They play the Timberwolves on Sunday at home. They'll probably lose that game. The Mavericks, once they get AD back, they're clearly better than the Suns. Golden State, with Jimmy in the lineup, they've been a little bit better. Sacramento Kings, we'll see. That's probably the only team the Suns could leapfrog. But I think even right now, the Sacramento Kings have the advantage over the Suns. Like, I'm all but ready to put a fork in them. I know you're going to wait a little bit longer, but not only do I think they're not going to make the play-in, especially with the upcoming schedule, which is the hardest left in the NBA, I don't think they're going to make the play-in, and I just think the rest of these 4 teams are better. What's your take on it? Sucks that we have to say that. Never thought in a million years they would do that.
Yeah, so the Kings, they have lost 2 of 4 with 2 remaining. So they'll play the Kings on March 14th and on April 13th, which is the very last game of the season again. Oh, no, I guess it was the second to last year. And so that'll decide the tiebreaker on that one, head to head. They're pretty close in terms of conference record if they were to tie in that. The Spurs, they play again on April 11th, the second to last game of the season. And let's see, they are 1-1 with them. And I do feel like we're headed toward it going down to tiebreakers, which is why I'm getting that specific with it. I don't think they're going to catch the Warriors, who they're 3 back of. And maybe the Spurs will help them out by just falling apart now that Wembanyama's out of the lineup. So really you're talking about, can they catch Sacramento? The Kings also are in the top 5 in terms of remaining strength of schedule, and they just lost their best player in De'Aaron Fox.
They also got Levine. Like, they're not depleted of talent.
For sure. I think it's going to go down to probably maybe even that last game of the season for 10th. But as we've talked about, 10th is as good as missing because no 10 seed has ever actually made the playoffs. It's like it's a participation trophy. You have the honor of going on the road and losing at some point. So yeah, I think at least one 10 seed may have made it to the second game, but no 10 seed has ever become the 8th seed in the NBA playoffs. And so who cares?
I didn't know that. I thought the Hawks might have done that. Let me just ask you this really quickly. Do you even want them to make the play-in? Like, even if they were the 7th seed, would you be like, heck yeah. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, not you're cool with it, but like you want to do it. Or would you rather just chop the head off and be done with it?
What do you mean?
For me, I'd say no. I don't even want to make the play-in because that just means another week of Suns basketball where they're likely going to get swept by either I don't even know who the top 2 seeds are. I know one's Oklahoma City and the other one's Memphis. I don't know. Maybe Memphis isn't as good as, some people think and whatever. Like, do you even want to see them lose to Memphis or Oklahoma City? And Oklahoma, I would think probably 5 games. The Grizzlies, I would think 5, maybe 6, maybe. Do you even want that? Or would you rather just have clarity?
The Grizzlies and the Thunder. I'll just tell you right.
Oh, it's fine. Oh, whatever. Let's say they both. It's okay. Do you want that? But do you want that? Like, do you want
in terms of them actually making the playoffs? I mean, look, I think my answer to all of it is yes, because unless they luck out and are able to trade one of their star players, and obviously you can get into whether they even should be doing that, but unless that ends up with them getting their pick back, then I would just hate the idea of going into the lottery with the Suns pick sitting there as a potential to jump up into the top 4. So that in terms of like my emotional brain, that's just what I want to avoid. But no, I mean, I'm not like looking forward to the idea of them somehow going on some run that absolutely no one expected and getting to, 7 out of nowhere or something. That would be fool's gold to me. I don't think it would affect me one way or another because they're just heading toward getting slaughtered no matter who.
You're absolutely right about the draft lottery thing, and I didn't put much thought into that. But what I would say is it's probably not going to be a top 4 pick. Now it could. That's happened before. The Hawks literally just happened last year where they won the draft lottery, and since they tweaked the rules, it is a little bit easier to get in there. But I would just rather have clarity. So clear, crystal clear that Matt Ishbia just knows and James Jones just knows this team just sucks. It doesn't work. Let's find a way to retool this and get it back on track next year. And then years later, we'll figure it out. That's where I'm at. I just want clarity.
I think they would have to play well in the playoffs to convince anybody.
What if they took the
change
Grizzlies
anybody's mind at this point?
Like,
well,
listen,
then I would feel like
to.
that was a more successful season because I said like a couple weeks ago, my benchmark for what could make this a success at this point would be to play better in the postseason than they did last year. So taking a team to 7 would be better. And
taking a team to 5 would be better, Brendon.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're asking me what I think could convince the ownership or management to say this is a little different than we thought on February 23rd. That would be what it would look like. But I don't think getting to 8 would do that. So I don't know, but I think we have clarity, I guess is
listen,
what I
man,
say.
I don't know
and
what
I don't know how much is going to change that no matter
Brendon,
what the standings end up saying.
I thought we had clarity last year when they lost to the Wolves, and clearly that wasn't the case. So I want crystal clear clarity. Anyways,
all right, that'll wrap us up. Hit follow,
yeah.
subscribe if you have not already. We are here for you every single day. We got Grizzlies Tuesday, Pelicans Thursday, and much more action from the Phoenix Suns coming our way. So keep it right here. Enjoy your Monday, and we'll catch you next time.